All right. So today is the 15th of July. Welcome everyone to the CICT UX meeting. The first point on the agenda is by Nadia, which she wanted me to talk about. And so this is about UX definition of done issue that she had started, in which there's a discussion going on like what would be the definition of done of the issues that we take up in CI. And as you can see, she has tried to break it into four parts, uh, which are only talking about two workflows: workflow design and workflow ready for development. So the first two parts are when an issue enters in the workflow design and when it leaves, when it is ready to exit that criteria. And similarly, the next one is when issues are ready to get into the workflow ready for development, and then when should it be considered that the role of, from the UX side, it's done. So there are many conversations going on with the engineers, with designers as well. So we would love to have everyone drop their thoughts there. For example, there's a conversation about like how the edge cases should be documented. And then there's also another question about if there's a pajama issue that's related, should we wait on getting that resolved first? If someone has encountered any such problem in their area before this, and they can share their experience, it would be great. So that's all about this one. The others are by Nadia as well.
Should we first discuss this one?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I have encountered yet a situation where I need to create a completely new component. So I'm not familiar with that kind of like workflow of like going with pajamas, developing the component, and then moving this into like just unblocking yourself. So I don't think I can provide a good perspective, but I think that yeah, I think it's important to know how that will work. I personally have been able to do everything without like creating new components, but I don't know what other people are.
Lucky. I feel like release management always runs into a place where we're implementing the GitLab UI component as is, and then we have follow-up issues to implement the pajamas styling and requirements. For example, our milestone picker, we actually ended up instrumenting the pajamas component for it and contributing back to the design spec after we delivered it.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, because a picker, for instance, it's something that like you probably have a very custom use case, a very custom usage of what you want to accomplish. But most of the things that I have been designing for testing on Runner are things that like I feel that they are very atomic in nature. So like I never have to create like a completely new interaction or like a completely new component to like create what I'm supposed to create. But that doesn't mean that I don't run into like pajamas constraints. You know, I just feel that sometimes I need to go and ask someone from the foundation team, like, hey, is this correct? What should I do in this? What type of component should I use for this stuff or not? So there's always that conversation with them. I just haven't had the situation where I need to actually create a completely new component and contribute back to pajamas on what we're doing.
So I'm curious about like what's, so Jackie said that there has been certain scenarios in the release team. How long does it take, let's say if an average size component has to be worked on? So getting that created and added to the design system, what's the average time that it takes?
Well, outage time is kind of a weird word. I would say typically 2 milestones. So we create the spec, confirm that the documentation has been updated on the pajama side. We go through the prototype updating and confirm the interactions are what we're expecting it to be. Have that issue added to the needs weight priority list for our engineering team. They weight it, we drop it into priority for the following milestone. The engineering team instruments the component, deliver the component, and then in the third milestone, we usually do the release management specific stuff. So for example, we're working on a sorting and pagination component, and we'll deliver that in 13.3, but we'll actually apply that to the environments dashboard in 13.4. So it's like a 3-month project almost to instrument pajamas, components, and spec. But I think the cycle time for us is that we have a lot of time allowing the engineers to confirm that the existing GitLab component has a certain like existence, and then what it would take to revise that existence in the frame of pajamas. And then sometimes we decide, okay, well, let's instrument the GitLab UI component as is and create follow-up issues so that our customers are able to use it immediately. But that it's a 3-month cycle to answer your question like super pointedly.
That's interesting. I mean, I would be especially interested to see how that pans out in CI, because we have such small gaps between the development cycles and the design work that we have to deliver.
Yeah, we used to. And one release was one team before we bifurcated it between progressive delivery and release management. Maybe Dimitri, you can speak to the cycle time between design and engineering, like how quick you're working on stuff for engineering to deliver. But I try to have Hyana as a PM work on her prototypes 2 milestones in advance of engineering delivering it, so that we're always able to like we have a UX definition of done, and UX definition of done has to be done the milestone before engineering picks it up.
That's good.
Yeah, that is I think an ideal state, right? That you are working that far ahead that you have time to see in advance, like, hey, actually, in order for us to deliver this, we need this component. We schedule this 2 milestones ahead. Is there time? Is there space to develop this component? I mean, I want progressive delivery to be there when we get there. That's gonna be awesome. But the closer you are developing against the immediately up following milestone, like it's not gonna be like a scenario of do we have time? It's gonna be a scenario we have to make time, and then it's gonna be that debate of do we have time for that? And that is putting ourselves in a hard spot. And I've been in that spot quite a few times, and it is hard to maneuver yourself out, and so you're delivering suboptimally. And yeah,
the build trap that I have to like remind myself I don't want to be in. And it's hard as a product manager because I want to deliver as fast as I can, so it goes against my nature as a person to use pajamas because I know it's going to be slower.
That's true. I think that's but I think that's kind of like the early sacrifice that you do right now in that sense. It's what allows you to later go and move faster, you know, because you're going to have those components, and like a componentized UI is way easier to, you know, like build on top of. So
yeah, the pagination component that we're working on right now, we're going to leverage on the releases page. We're going to leverage on the CI/CD director dashboard, the environments dashboard, index page. Like there's 6 other places that we're going to be able just to slap that puppy in and not have to like rebuild it, which is fantastic. The gains, the efficiency gains that we get is awesome. But that upfront investment is kind of like a,
yeah.
That's really good to know. So I guess the next topic is by Laurie.
It's my turn already. All right. Sorry, I was just coming out of a meeting with Darren. So I am working on whatever this issue is. Why didn't it? Whatever. I'm having issues today. 922. It's a CI adoption journey research with Andre. He's another researcher in Monitor. We've been talking with PMs this week. Sorry, PMs this week. We talked with Ori Tao. Just finished talking with Darren. We talked with Tim and Growth as well to understand what is the CI adoption journey. Lots of different answers, lots of different perspectives. It's kind of clear to us that everybody thinks of it in terms of their own silo, their own part of the product. So that's going to take a lot of my focus over like the next 3 months. Andre and I are going to work together with that. We need to work on defining the box that we need to play in for this because it is such a large project. So that's one of my main things. I didn't put it here, but I'm also working on some UX research curriculum on the research team side for everybody. Me and Adam are working together to kind of try to repurpose what we have in the handbook in a way that might be a little bit more meaningful and easy to consume than all the word salad that we have up there. We'll keep it in the handbook, but we want to turn it into something that's at least like learning modules or something, something a lot more easily consumable for people. So both product and design and anybody else in the company who wants to learn about research. What else am I doing? Oh, Jackie and I are going to talk on Friday. Sorry, Jackie, to put a meeting on Friday. We'll just have a chat. And we're going to talk about 693, and it's an issue that has come up. It sounds like it's Jackie, Tim, and James as well. So it's something that's definitely cross-stage research. Part of what the research team is up to is, once again, realigning what we put our focus towards, and wanting to put more of a focus towards doing the deeper problem validation stuff, more strategic problem validation research. So not necessarily saying, I have a problem about this. There is a problem here with this one thing. Let's just go dive a little bit deeper into it to understand why it's a problem. Instead of doing that kind of problem validation work, looking at something that might span stage groups, might span user profiles or personas, and diving deeper into that area. And 963 sounds like it's going to be perfect for that. So Jackie, looking forward to talking with you on Friday. My brain will not allow me to even look at the issue until then. I'm working on so many other things. And of course, I'm trying to find more people who hate merge requests. It's kind of hard to find people who hate merge requests. And even the people who say they hate merge requests, when I talk to them, they're like, it's not that bad. Like, really? Come on.
It's like so nice. Like it's such a great feature product. It's hard to like say that even though some things are like, oh, that could be better. It's still like, oh, it's so great. It has so many positives.
Yeah, then that's it. It's like, well, it could be better, but you know, I'm not going to leave because you know, it collapses my disk. So I'm trying to, with Jeff's help, one of the other researchers who knows SQL, because I do not, I pulled a list, and then the data team helped me fix the list. And now we have 32,000 people who have just created an MR for the first time in the last 30 days. So I'm going to try to get our recruiter to start in this list and sending out invites, because what I want to do is start talking to people who are new to merge requests and see if therein lies some frustration of, I hate this thing and this is why. Because otherwise it's a lot of, please go fix your shit and get the UI tight and get the interactions good, and then people will love it even more. There's no lurking beast that I have found so far in talking to 15 people. So I'm hoping that the noobs will have some feedback for me, and I'll have to wrap those sessions up by end of next week, because I have got to write that stuff up by the end of the month. So once I write that up, I wrap that up, I'll focus more on the curriculum and 693 and the CI adoption journey as well. So that's what's going on over here in my world. What are you guys up to?
That's a lot going on in your world.
Yes, it is.
Hayan and I are working on validating group releases and our environments dashboard redesign. So those are two things that we're researching and doing solution validation on right now.
A quick question, Jackie. On the solution validations, like how are they mostly performed? Like, do you use a Figma prototype or Sketch prototype, or is it with the product after it has been released? Like, how do you on average approach the solution validations most often? And anyone else, please chime in if you're doing them quite often, or just even if you do it once, it's also valuable.
Yeah, so I try to avoid doing a solution validation on the product that's already built, mainly because that means I'm probably going to have to rework it because I'm very rarely right the first time. So I used to usually use either like lo-fi mocks to then inform a Figma implementation. And usually what happens is I'll go in with these customers with a lo-fi representation that I've built. And once I validate that like the problem's right and that I'm going in the right direction, I'll provide that to Hyana. And usually Hyana is in all these calls with me anyways, but she'll take that lo-fi and build it in Figma. And then we'll put the Figma in front of customers either asynchronously, so send it to them an email or issues, and then they'll provide feedback to that. And that's after we get the feedback and some tweaks on the Figma representation, only then will we instrument it in the product. That usually takes a full quarter.
Package follows a pretty similar structure where we tend to do high level, low fidelity testing just to make sure we're on the right track. Then we build a nice polished Figma representation. We tend to do kind of formal moderated testing where it's, here's the problem that you, the user, are going to experience. Here are the tasks you need to perform in order to resolve the problem. Please perform these tasks on the prototype. And then we kind of evaluate, can they do it? Is this meeting their expectation? And then there's a high level conversation of, did we accurately represent a problem you faced before? Does the solution match the things you've done before, not just the situation we gave you, stuff like that. And then once we've gone through all of that process, we feel really confident when we build it. So it's pretty rare we test the actual product.
Yeah, thanks. In terms of like bringing it in front of a like customers, is like that is one of those things, right? Like, when can you call it a successful solution validation? Is it more of like a, you know, like if you test it normally in like a problem validation or like usability research, you bring it in front of at least like five users at minimum to kind of have that like confirmed, like 80% of the problems kind of show themselves if you do, you know, walk through the same thing with at least 5 users. That has been like a scientific thing that has been proven. But you know, I like, do you do the same with customers? Do you pass at least across like five customers, or is it just like, oh, this one customer kind of thinks this is cool, let's move forward, this is solution validated? Like, what is the bar that is set there?
We tend to run with a minimum of 5. We want to go for 8 people, all attempting to represent different user types. And then if there are entirely different personas that are also going to be utilizing this feature, we might even double it at that point. So 5 developers and then 5 system admins, if it's kind of a broad range thing. We work really hard to avoid one person, one user kind of validating the entire idea, unless it's really either very specific and they have exactly the problem we're testing, or that's it. That's the only situation we've actually done that. So that 5 to 8 number tends to be where we sit.
Not gonna lie, I've definitely built things for customers before in my past life, like for specific customers, and I've only like validated it with that specific customer. GitLab, it's a little bit easier to solicit feedback from wider ranges of the individual contributor up to an enterprise. So we have like a good pick-in of whoever we want to screen, we can screen with that validation. Much like Ian and Tim, we shoot for 5. Sometimes if I'm really tailoring release managers, that persona is hard to find in GitLab. So I'll end up validating it with prospects and non-GitLab users. which makes for an interesting like expectation reconciliation.
Yeah, and I guess that, like, yeah, that's a good point, because like saying talk to 5 to 8 users, that's like per segment. So if you have different personas, and that could even be like a persona could be a non-GitLab user, that could be a different kind of dev type of persona. You need 5 to 8 per segment. It's not 5 to 8 total, and you have 3 different personas to talk to. You still need like 5 at least from each segment. So that's why when you're writing your hypothesis and your goals and objectives, you really need to be focused on who is it that will prove this for me. How many of them do I need to talk to? You know, because that's where the exponentialness of research can hit you in a very soft space, very hard when you get to too many people very quickly.
Also the benefits of dog fooding though, if you run through dog fooding prior to releasing, you get validation from the entire employee base. So typically you can refine higher quality feedback and the solution validation outside of GitLab if it's like an improvement you're releasing to the wild after it's been dog fooded. Depends on the order you go within, right? Sometimes we skip dog fooding and we go straight to the customer facing audience. Other teams don't, right?
Yeah, and the only caution I'd have around dog fooding is just make sure you're dog fooding with the right people, because we are GitLab. GitLab is us, and we live and breathe it. And if you're trying to go after somebody who is not a GitLab user or is using something different, and we don't internally use that thing that's different, you might run the risk of only having a very myopic view of the thing that you're trying to dog food it. So maybe I might dog food internally, plus maybe run a handful of people through it just to see if there's a different kind of perspective from somebody who's, say, coming from Jenkins to use RCI instead of just always using RCI internally.
Last question in this sense. Does that mean, if I take your word, that most of the solution validation is not being done with first look participants, but rather with customer calls?
It should be being done with first look participants if we're not dog fooding it with customers or dog fooding it internally. But it doesn't have to be done with first look participants, because you can, if you have customer relationships, like your PM has customer relationships with people, you can use them. It's just, you need to make sure that you don't always use like the same 5 developers for all the things. So if you have enough people, you know, so you've got 20, you can rotate them through, that'd be okay. But, and sometimes it's nice to have a mix between both, because first look can be a little bit more wider audience than maybe the customers that you guys interact with on a more regular basis.
Same works pretty hard, just along those lines of what Lori was saying, where if there's a customer or a couple of customers who have specifically looked for our feature or have not been able to move over to our product because of this feature set, we'll test with them in combination with some people from first look, so that we know we're satisfying a need that we heard in the first place, as well as this works for a broader range of people. So we try to mix it up every time.
What about you?
I didn't hear the end part. What was
you cut yourself off.
The question was, most of your solution validations, do you test them with customers or with first look participants, or do you use a mix?
Dang it, you're so quick with your mute button, like you cut off your last word of your statement.
Oh, sorry.
So from my seat, I use always a mix. I would say sometimes I'll reach out to the enterprise customers, but I find the enterprise customers have really high expectations that if you show them something and they give you feedback, that you instrument it, even if it's not exactly where you're wanting to go with it. So I try to temper that expectation, record the feedback, create the issue, share the issue with them, and let them know that this is an iteration that we're building from a product management standpoint. First Look's a great resource, and sometimes they are our customers. Like there's like an intersection where like we have an account team, and then some of the account members are a part of First Look.
It's good that you brought that up because you're bringing that up because I think that that's something that when people buy software, I think they come from like another completely different model in which it's a lot of it's more waterfall, right? Like for most people, you know, in the sense that they kind of like say, oh, we need this, how long it's gonna take, you know, like they. So I think it's also important when we're talking to customers to explain them a little bit how we work and that we have the concept of like an MVC, that we ship fast and we try to bring the solution. And I think like most customers are very appreciative of that. Like when they understand why we do it and how we do it, then like they really kind of like get on board with that idea. And then their feedback becomes way smoother and the interaction becomes easier, I guess.
All right, so does anyone have anything more to add to this point? If not, then we'll move to the next. So the next topic is just an update from me that there is one dark visualization feedback solution validation that's underway. And I've also started off working on the design guide for the Jenkins file wrapper solution validation. And since the verify area was almost empty in Dovetail, so I've started to log all of the validation exercises and future research work that I do there as well. So yeah, that's all. Next point is by Nadia. This is regarding the retrospective. So if anyone has anything to talk about that. All right, then we'll move to the next, which is if anyone wants to volunteer to plan a fun social meeting for us as a team. Is this a pass again? It shouldn't be.
we did one that Nadia planned. I don't know. That was like months ago, like a long time ago, and it was quite fun. I mean, I remember that one and I enjoyed it. It was.
Great, then
I'm
let's
not
do it again.
volunteering though. I'm saying that it was fun. Maybe we could do the same thing, you know. It's do you remember Dimitri? Maybe yeah, he remembers. Ian probably was on that one as well. Yeah, but we were like showing like photos of our desks and like sharing things, you know, like very very cool.
Whenever you ask, like, do you remember? It's like, what did you guys do? Like, trip on mushrooms together? Like, you're not remembering. I was like, what is going on here? Fine.
No, it was pretty cool. It was like basically sharing things about our workspace and like our lives, like very like chill, not like CI/CD, not work, not anything, just kind of like team bonding and like sharing like things about us. You know, like I think that's very important, and I don't think we do enough of that, and I think like especially when you're working remote, I think it's very important to do those type of things. You know, because when you work co-located, you do that by like, let's go and grab lunch, and then you talk about other stuff, you know. But here we have the coffee chats and we have all that stuff. But if we do it as a team and we like organize the activity, then it makes sense.
All the more reason we should have it again. So who's volunteering?
Should I?
We can set it up. No
Yeah.
problem.
I didn't want to.
But if you want to,
a lot of stuff, but like if you volunteer, Dimitri, go for it. But if you feel that you like end up like with a lot of stuff, I can do it as well.
All right.
What's in your hand right now?
Oh, it's like this thing that it's basically, I don't know. I need fidgets, but this one is for fidget toys, but this one is for basically, I don't know how to explain it. Like if this was a table, then it will. Yeah.
A phone holder. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I need to be touching always stuff. But I have more toys here. Let me find one.
Yay, Dimitri would set it up.
I also have you guys seen this one? It's kind of like a fidget toy that like it has the this, it has like a joystick, and then it has like buttons here.
Nice.
that is amazing. I'm big on fidgeting. I need to have something in my hands. And I saw a toy like that on like this website. I don't know which one it was anymore, but it is with the mechanical keyboard, and you have the different switches,
Oh yeah,
right? That has like one more clicky, and it is like a cube with 6 switches on it.
yeah.
But it's like 25 euros or something. So I've been wondering, like, should I buy it or not? Is it worthwhile? Or is it going to be another thing that I just laying around, some plastic? I don't know. Like, but I think it's going to be awesome. But I didn't order.
I definitely love the feeling of the mechanical keyboard, like that feedback. I'm gonna look into that one. Probably buy that one as well. Yeah, I need to be doing something with my hands always.
All right. So we have one volunteer, and we can all help Dimitri to set it up. I mean, with different activities that he would need to plan. The next is Team Retro. I'm not very sure what this is about. So if someone can take this up.
I think we should do it next week, though. I mean, like usually what we do is that after the milestone, we say what went well during the release, what didn't go well, and what can we improve. We just spend some time talking about those things. But since it's not the 19th yet, so like this release is still almost finished but not finished, then I think we should wait until next week.
Great. Okay, so with that, we have exhausted our agenda. Anything else that anyone wants to share? Great, then see you all in some other meeting. Bye.